Now, I'm a very practical theologian. So practical, in fact, that I really believe when you look at Romans 12:1, which talks about offering our bodies as a living sacrifice, what does it look like for our eyes to be set apart as unto God, or for our hands, or for our ears, for our minds? We're going to start with the eyes, and we're going to talk about the ministry of noticing. What I'd like to do is share a story with you that might make this idea come alive for you. It actually occurred in Colorado, and it's a destination place, and a lot of you maybe have even been there. It's called Estes Park. And on a particular trip out here, I was invited to speak at a conference, and I had a friend of mine along with me, and we were traveling around, and in the conversation it kind of came up that he had never ever seen an elk. He was just an Ohio boy who had seen lots of deer, but never had seen the big, elegant elk that roam the woods and the countryside here in Colorado. And I said, I think I know where I can show you a few elk, because I think right now they're down grazing in the town of Estes Park. And so that day we made our way there, and as we pulled up upon a particular scene, I couldn't help but notice a gentleman who had a camera that looked more like a Canon. The thing was huge. The lens on it was like this. And I immediately just took note of that. And I would say that noticing requires us to get outside of ourselves and begin to notice the things going on in other people's lives, things that they are interested in. It might be the tattoos they're wearing. It might be the t-shirt with a billboard, a lot of people wear t-shirts that have a message on. It might be a bumper sticker. There's all kinds of things, if we just took time to notice, that people are actually sending us messages. And I really believe, actually, if you followed me around, you'd find that most of my spiritual conversations start because of something I first noticed. You would also see this happen in the book of Acts, chapter 17. As Paul walked around, he noticed all of this religious imagery. And his conversation actually started as he took and as he expressed what he noticed as he was walking around. And so on this particular day, as I pulled my car up, I just looked at this gentleman. I said, "What in the world is that?" I said, "Are you trying to shoot the elk, or what is that thing?" Just kind of in a fun, jovial voice. And he turned around, and he was immediately taken into the conversation because I was actually talking about something he was already interested in, and that was obvious. The secret of being interesting in a conversation is to be interested, to actually get the eyes of our heart off of ourselves and onto things that people already care about. And so that's what I did in this particular story. So immediately he began to explain to me that he was taking pictures because he was an author, and he was taking these pictures for a book he was getting ready to write and create and actually self-publish. I said, "That's fascinating." I said, "That's really," and I began to push into better understand what his book was about and why he did what he did. And eventually at some point I felt like it was okay for me to share that I too was an author, and we found common ground, and the conversation just took off from there. As I began to listen to him, what I learned that day is that this gentleman had given his whole life to building children's hospitals across the country, like Shriners hospitals and hospitals that took care of young children when they had dire situations they were facing. And at one point he said, "I really don't know why I'm even doing this in my retirement years." He said, "I'm spending my money and my time writing these books, and not quite sure why I'm doing that." In this moment, I stepped into it with a holy sense of boldness, and I threw it out this way. I said, "I have a holy hunch." I wasn't trying to be dogmatic. I'm just offering this as a humble person who just met you and who's listening to you. I have a holy hunch I know why you're writing the books that you do. He immediately was taken back. He was intrigued. And I asked for permission if I could share my thought with him. He said, "Oh, please do." And I said, "I'm just wondering if in all the years you've spent building these children's hospitals, that you became so intimately acquainted with the heartache and the lack of hopelessness in some of the situations that you've seen, that deep down inside you wanted to do something more than just build bricks and mortar. You wanted to give these kids some hope. I didn't tell you. The book that he wrote, the books that he writes are actually books with animal stories, and he leaves blanks in the stories to put the children's names in so the children can become part of the story. And the idea is, as they read the story, they're in it, and it gives them some hope and puts a smile on their face. And as I shared this thought with him, I said, I just got to believe you're doing what you're doing because God has put something in your heart. And it is just kind of coming out of you because of all the experiences you had throughout your life. And here this very distinguished man in his 70s, just meeting me in 10 minutes, just started to break down and cry, grabs me, puts his arms around me, he goes, "Oh my gosh, I think what you just said is true. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing that thought with me. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing." And I said, you know, the Bible makes it clear in Ephesians 2:10 that we've all been created to do things, good works in this world. And this is the good work that God has created you to do. And that kind of paved the way for a 30 to 45 minute spiritual conversation in which my friend who was along with me got involved with his children were there, and we walked away from that moment thinking, wow, God just showed up.